Johnny Cueto has agreed to a 1 year contract with an option for the 2024 season with the Miami Marlins, worth $6 million this year, with a $2.5 million buyout for the following season, bringing the total guarantee to $8.5 million. Great deal for Miami as they're looking to trade some of their starting pitching, something they have a vast majority or a vast quantity of right now. Looking at Pablo Lopez, maybe this facilitates the trade for him. Jesus Luzardo has also been in trade rumors, but for Johnny Cueto, he's had a nice bounce back year last year with the Chicago White Sox, parlayed that year anyway into a 1 year plus an option here with the Miami Marlins. If the option's picked up, the total deal is worth $16.5 million. Now, the Marlins certainly have had their flaws offensively, but on their pitching staff, they certainly have an ace at the top of the rotation with Sandy Alcantara. He will not be traded. Don't worry about that, Marlins fans. But Pablo Lopez, this seems to be the nail in the coffin as far as a trade. Pablo Lopez has been on the market for a better part of about a year plus now. The Blue Jays have had interest in the past. The New York Yankees have had interest. The LA Dodgers, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Rangers at one point. The Twins, I imagine, are going to make a call. The Red Sox we've heard mentioned over the last few weeks. So kind of keep your eyes peeled for what Miami's now going to do with their starting rotation. Kim Ng, the general manager there in Miami, certainly has a few options at her fingertips. She could choose to parlay both of those, Luzardo and Pablo Lopez, into chips for the future. They do have a couple of phenoms coming through in their minor league system right now as far as pitchers as well. So Cueto gives them a good 1 year, maybe a 2 year stopgap option until those guys are Major League Baseball ready. They don't have to shove them up to the major leagues unless they're absolutely ready. You remember Miami famously made Jose Fernandez a major leaguer at the age of 20 years old. The Miami Marlins they do not have to do that this year because now they have insurance in that starting rotation with a guy like Cueto. Now, of course, will Johnny Cueto be the answer long term? Absolutely not. He's in the twilight of his career. He's only going to be there for a year or two max. I don't think he's going to be able to. He's going to be on that roster any further than that. Their offense, though, is where the Miami Marlins absolutely have to improve, both at the major league level and the minor league level. They haven't really gotten any of their hitting prospects to actually work, and so we'll see if they end up making a trade of Pablo Lopez for a position player. We heard rumors last couple of weeks anyway about the Boston Red Sox possibly be willing to part with Tristan Cassis. That would be a good option for them. They do have a first baseman right now on the major league roster in Garrett Cooper. He's on a 1 year, $3 million deal, I believe. Not exactly impeding a Cassis move here, but any type of move to get some impact in that lineup is exactly what the Miami Marlins should do. The Yankees reportedly have interest, but the Miami Marlins aren't exactly overly enthused with any of the options via trade with the New York Yankees. Peraza, not really interesting to them. Gleyber Torres as well. Maybe an Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, again, no interest there for the Miami Marlins, and understandably so. But I wonder if that takes the Yankees out of it. They already made their big addition so far to that starting rotation with Carlos Rodon. Maybe they just tweak things at the back of the rotation rather than going the trade route for Pablo Lopez. But that's exactly the route I would go if I'm a Yankees front office member right now. I think bringing him in would really solidify my starting rotation as one of the top 2 or 3 in all of Major League Baseball. Without a guy like Pablo Lopez in there, I think you're still talking about a 5 or 10 rotation, depending on what they do at the back end of that rotation. If they do nothing and just keep it as is, I think that rotation's outside of the top 10. If they do bring in somebody to at least give them some length, some depth in that rotation, which I think they will do. I think most teams try to do that as they get closer to pitchers and catchers reporting. But I think the Yankees should easily fit within that top 10, maybe top 5 as currently constructed, as long as they add some depth. That's the only thing the Yankees really are missing. Bringing in a guy like Pablo Lopez, like I said, probably catapults them in the top 2 or 3. The other teams that I mentioned, the Toronto Blue Jays, they've already made a number of acquisitions so far this offseason, bringing in Chris Bassett. They're not really going to have Ryu this year as well. He might be an option for the second half of the year, but you can't count on him giving you innings this year. Kikuchi hasn't been really effective at all for the Toronto Blue Jays. You have a guy like Mitch White who could possibly man that spot, but bringing in a guy like Pablo Lopez, who's normally a number 3, maybe a low-end number 2 in a rotation right now, could possibly even take off in his another year full year in Major League Baseball. But that would certainly make that rotation a little bit better. A rotation that struggled with poor performance last year. Chris Bassett was a model of consistency last year for the New York Mets. Exactly what the Toronto Blue Jays lineup or rotation absolutely needs, especially with poor performances coming from Jose Barrios, among others. We'll see if they can rebound, but bringing him in would be a great thing for them. The Blue Jays, they could trade Aurelvis Martinez along with a couple of other prospects, but Martinez had a down first half of the year, and so I wonder if he's really the piece the Marlins are going to want back, or if they go another route. But another interesting trade possibility. The Dodgers as well have a good young farm system that they could choose to trade from. Cartaya, among others, that they could trade as well. They do have some good options. Michael Busch as well. The Pablo Lopez angle of this, I wonder if he really fits in that rotation. I mean, they could use some arms. Don't get me wrong, but they have they have Clayton Kershaw, Buehler's of course coming back from injury, Dustin May. They have some good options there. They decided to go ahead and DFA Trevor Bauer. Basically, he's not a fit for the Los Angeles clubhouse. The players didn't want him there. The front office didn't want him there. Reasons of their own, anyway. I'll let you kind of read all the articles out there on him. But the Dodgers no longer have the depth that they did, say, a few years ago at the starting rotation. Max Scherzer is no longer there. We just mentioned that Mitch White has been sent on. They're missing Kenta Maeda as well. They no longer have Kenley Jansen at the back end of that bullpen either, so they could use some depth in that starting rotation. I just wonder if Pablo Lopez is the right piece for the Dodgers. There were some rumors that they could go out there and get Justin Verlander this offseason. They didn't really do that either, but we'll see how things end up going for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Do they make the investment in a guy like Pablo Lopez, or do they stand pat? But if you're a Miami Marlins fan, the most likely outcome, it seems, is the St. Louis Cardinals. They have some good outfielders that are tradable for them. Those would fit nicely into Miami Marlins roster as currently constructed. Sure, they have a VCL Garcia and they have Jorge Soler, but you can flex one of those to the DH spot, plug in one of those outfielders, and get a prospect or two from the Cardinals in return. The Cardinals currently have a six-man rotation, and they do have a couple of starting pitchers on one-year deals. Now, are all of those guys, number 1, 2, or 3 type starters? No. There is some room for improvement, to say the least, in that rotation, and bringing in Pablo Lopez would be a great option. He does have a couple years left on his contract as well, so Pablo Lopez would be there past this coming year, whereas those other 2 starting pitchers, I want to say Flaherty and one other one, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, of the 2 free agents at the end of this year for the Cardinals, but they could use some depth in that rotation, somebody you can hand the ball to in a playoff series as well. But the Marlins, I think their best trade partner is probably the St. Louis Cardinals, just because of the fit of extra outfielders for the St. Louis Cardinals, minor league depth for the Cardinals, and the need for a starting pitcher on a controllable contract for the St. Louis Cardinals as well. Let us know in the comment section what you think of Johnny Cueto going to the Miami Marlins on the 1-year, $8.5 million guarantee, $6 million the first year, $10.5 million the second year, with a buyout worth $2.5 million. Overall, a great contract for both player and team. Player gets the contract that he wants with a possible option for the second year after a nice rebound season with the Chicago White Sox last year, while the team gets some insurance if they decide to go the trade route for Pablo Lopez. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and as always, hit that like button on this video. We'll try to keep you guys updated the rest of this offseason on Major League Baseball's hot stove. NFL playoffs are right here, right now, so we'll see how that unfolds, who ends up winning the Super Bowl. A lot of headlines coming out about that right now. The NHL, of course, has their All-Star Weekend coming up, and of course the NBA, the trade deadline season is upon us. A whole bunch of trade rumors are finally starting to come out, so make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at UpsideSN, and follow us over to Facebook, Upside Sports Network as well, and we'll keep you guys updated on all the latest from all 4 of those major sports. Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.